Things narcissist says when they realize you are leaving. When a narcissist begins to sense that you are no longer emotionally available and that your attachment to them is weakening, their behavior often shifts in ways that are confusing, intense, and strategically designed to pull you back into the emotional cycle they were benefiting from. What follows is not sudden love or genuine realization in most cases, but a reaction to losing control, attention, and emotional supply that they were depending on. In the beginning, they may act as if nothing has changed, trying to observe your behavior closely while pretending not to notice your distance, because admitting loss of control would mean confronting their own vulnerability. But internally, they are tracking every change in your tone, your responses, and your availability, searching for signs that you are slipping away from the dynamic they used to dominate. One of the first things they may say is something like, "You've changed lately. I don't know what happened to you," delivered in a tone that sounds concerned but is actually designed to make you doubt yourself. This statement is not about understanding you, but about redirecting attention away from their behavior and making your emotional shift seem like the problem instead. As they feel you pulling further away, they often escalate into emotional confusion tactics, saying things like, "I was the only one who truly cared about you," which is meant to rewrite the history of the relationship in their favor. This kind of statement is designed to make you question your memory, your judgment, and even your reasons for wanting distance in the first place. When they notice that guilt is not working as effectively as before, they may switch to vulnerability performance, saying things like, "I can't believe you would leave me after everything I did for you," trying to position themselves as the victim. This creates emotional pressure by making your decision to leave feel like an act of cruelty rather than self-protection. If emotional manipulation does not bring you back quickly, they often move into subtle intimidation or fear-based language such as, "You'll regret this when you realize what you lost." This is meant to trigger anxiety about future consequences and make you second-guess your decision to walk away from them. At times, they may suddenly become overly affectionate and say things like, "No one will ever love you like I do," attempting to create emotional dependency by mixing flattery with isolation. This is not true connection, but an attempt to position themselves as irreplaceable in your emotional world. Another common phrase is, "You're being dramatic and overreacting," which is used to minimize your feelings and invalidate the reasons you started detaching in the first place. By labeling your emotional clarity as instability, they attempt to regain psychological control over how you interpret the situation. As they realize logic is not bringing you back, they may switch to confusion-based statements like, "I don't even know who you are anymore," even though it is your boundaries that have simply become clearer. This creates an illusion that your growth is something abnormal or unfair, rather than a natural response to emotional harm. In some cases, they may directly challenge your decision by saying, "You won't survive without me," which is meant to weaken your confidence and reattach you through fear rather than love. This reflects their inability to accept that you can function independently outside of their influence. When emotional strategies begin failing, they may briefly act calm and reasonable, saying things like, "Let's just talk like adults, don't throw everything away," trying to reset the situation. But this calmness is often strategic, designed to pause your exit long enough for them to regain influence over your emotions. If you still do not respond the way they want, they might shift into blame by saying, "This is all your fault, you never appreciated me anyway," reversing responsibility completely. This tactic is meant to exhaust your emotional energy by making you defend yourself instead of continuing to detach. Another powerful phrase they use is, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you repay me," which is rooted in transactional thinking rather than emotional understanding. It reframes the relationship as a debt system, where your independence is seen as betrayal instead of growth. As panic increases, they may alternate between anger and affection, sometimes saying, "I hate you for doing this," followed quickly by, "I still need you," creating emotional instability. This inconsistency is not confusion, but a method of keeping you emotionally off balance so you remain engaged. They might also try to create jealousy or urgency by saying, "Someone else will treat you worse than I did," attempting to make you doubt the outside world. This is a containment strategy, meant to shrink your perception of options and keep you within their emotional reach. Eventually, when they realize control is slipping completely, they may lower their tone and say, "I can change. Just give me one more chance," promising transformation without real accountability. This promise often comes without consistent behavioral change. because the goal is to stop your exit, not to grow. In some final attempts, they may resort to silence followed by sudden emotional messages like, I miss you, I can't sleep without you, trying to create emotional pull through inconsistency. This intermittent reinforcement is one of the strongest psychological hooks used to re-engage someone who is already detaching. What is important to understand in all of these statements is that they are not random emotional expressions, but predictable patterns that emerge when control is being lost. They are designed to pull you back into confusion, self-doubt, and emotional reactivity so that you abandon the clarity that made you leave in the first place. And when you start recognizing these patterns instead of reacting to them, their power begins to weaken, because manipulation only works when it is mistaken for truth. At that point, what once felt emotionally overwhelming starts to look like repetition, and what once felt like love begins to reveal itself as control.